Kia ora, welcome to Under the Checkered Flag, MotoGP edition. I'm your host Kate, and we're just going to jump right in. So this week I'm going to be rambling about MotoGP riders' salaries, with Marc Marquez walking away from what was allegedly a $19 million US salary from Honda to get on to the beautiful machinery that is the current Ducati. Well, the Ducati that we saw in 2023, so the one that Johann Zarco was riding, is what is going to be going to Marc Marquez apparently. It's no surprise that with this move, the topic of MotoGP riders' salaries is coming up, and with the 2024 season, it's interesting to see how little our riders get paid, especially compared to other motorsports. I'm not just talking Formula One, I'm talking a variety of them. I say they get paid so little after saying that Marc Marquez earned what was supposedly 19 million. But we also do need to keep that in context, because Marquez is sort of an anomaly in our sport. He's a bit like Valle. You know, both Marquez and Rossi have built their brands so well. They're not just racers. You could travel from country to country and still see fluoro yellow stickers, which my personal preference is not seeing fluoro yellow stickers. That's not just because of my opinions on Valentino Rossi, it's more the fact that that colour is just hideous to me. I just despise it with a passion. I despised that colour long before I despised Valentino Rossi's sportsmanship towards his rivals. Love what he's done with the sport, but not super keen into that. You can see these stickers, the VR46 stickers, anywhere in the world you go. You see them on motorcycles, you see them on cars. In fact, I have 2 MotoGP stickers on my car. One of them's Marc Marquez's, and the other one is Casey Stoner's. Sorry, tangent aside, I love those little stickers though. My point is, while these big players, the ones who have world championships, multiple of them, under their belt, they still earn a decent wage, but the newbies and the rookies coming up through, they earn a lot less. And on that, comparing Formula 1 and MotoGP, I truly don't believe that standard line that gets thrown out, because the fact that MotoGP will never be that popular because more people can relate to car racing, kind of, but the fact that people couldn't relate to MotoGP just because they don't ride motorcycles, yes, on one hand that means they won't know what it feels like in that sense, but I know plenty of people that are fans of MotoGP and really watch it for the racing, the excitement, the overtakes and the storylines. I know people that have never stepped on a motorcycle and that are fans like that. I know ones who never intend to step on a motorcycle. And while I could go on about a long-winded spiel about how MotoGP is incredibly lacking in marketing at the moment, I'm, trying to stay on topic a little bit more. So MotoGP salaries, and dive into Moto2 and Moto3 salaries, or the lack of. The fact that some of them are paying to be there. Yeah, so let's talk about it. So I'm going to have to sprinkle in a bunch of allegedlys as well, because I obviously have not seen these MotoGP rider contracts. I'm sure they are very heavily guarded, much like the contract that means, actually it's not past tense because it's very much happening, the contract that means that Repsol Honda can't run Monster Energy branding this year. These are all things that we hear through the grapevine, but as I said, sprinkled in with a bunch of allegedlys. You can expect that sorry, my little pup Lewis has just joined me, if you can hear him. We can expect that satellite riders earn less than the factory boys. It's just one of those things that happens. And when I say salaries, I just mean riders' salaries. not their personal sponsorship deals. For example, we know that Jack Miller has a personal sponsorship deal with Caterpillar, so they do the construction. I don't know, I've got a pair of their really awesome boots and I highly recommend them, but they've got these personal sponsors as well, and they've got all these like side hustles and side deals going on. So this is just sort of what they earn from the team itself. So we know this year, or it has been said this year, that Marc Marquez will not be taking a salary from Gresini Racing. He will still, of course, have Red Bull sponsorship and these sort of money, but he is supposedly riding for free, which is really interesting. Next up, it is supposedly the VR46 Academy boys. So they earn around 300,000. This is the same for the RNF Aprilia rider Raul Fernandez, and also the Gas riders. So yes, they're riding with Gas KTM, or as Gas like to say, Gas Factory Racing. They all on the same machinery, they're all on the year-old bikes, and they're all earning around that amount, which is not a lot of money considering what they go out there and do each weekend. They hop on these bikes going 360 kilometers an hour and they come off them and they break themselves constantly. And so it just does not seem like a lot of money to me at all. Taka Nakagami is then supposedly in the mix at around 350,000 to 500,000. Again, allegedly. Now the person who's said to be up next, now this one really surprised me. It's Jorge Martin, the guy who was fighting for the World Championship last year. I suspect that since all of that has been occurring, you know, his base salary has been bumped up a little bit. Because, yeah, you'd hope so anyway. And let's not forget that these, as I said, base salaries. So these guys also will no doubt have clauses in their contracts. For every point, they get a certain amount of bonus. For every win, sprint win, every podium, they'd be getting different bonuses, as well as their regular income. So there are those other work perks, I suppose, and the things that, you know, performance bonuses. When they're doing well, they're earning more money. And not to mention work perks. Pol Espargaro posted on his Instagram a beautiful picture of a KTM Expo, and it's number 44, which is his number that he runs in MotoGP. And I do have to wonder if this was sort of like the sweetener of the deal for him getting the boot at the end of last year. They'll be like, sorry, you're not going to be on the grid full time next year. We've got some wildcards for you though. Oh, and here's this beautiful hypercar. I'm going to chuck a picture on screen if you're watching the video version, because it is a masterpiece. I love it. It's gorgeous. So there are all these side perks. Sorry, another tangent. I'm all over the show today. It must be because it's a Sunday and it's a beautiful day outside, which naturally means I'm inside hibernating because it's way too hot outside. I know a lot of listeners here are from the USA. That's what the statistics tell me anyway. And you guys are all in winter. I'm like roasting at the moment. It's so boiling. Back to the riders' salaries and what they allegedly earn. Coming up after Jorge Martin, it's supposedly Alex Marquez, Brad Binder, Miguel Oliveira, Morbidelli. All of these people were supposedly on $1 million deals. So this is okay. I feel like this should be the utter baseline salary though. $1 million is an awful lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's also not a lot of money when you think about it. Most people will earn $1 million over their lifetime. Maybe? Maybe not, actually. I suppose it all does depend where you live and things like that as well, because property here in New Zealand is very, very expensive, but it's also a lot cheaper than property in Hong Kong sort of thing. So it's all relative and all that sort of thing, but I do feel like $1 million as a baseline would just be a basic thing, and it would be really good to see Dorna stump up some more cash for the riders, for the ones who are taking this risk each week, purely for our entertainment. And I really appreciate it because I love MotoGP. And then I get to sit here and ramble and try and get my MotoGP rambly thoughts out of my head in a way that kind of makes sense. So that's why I'm here. Because these guys take this risk each week, and I do not want to watch them get hurt, but I also am absolutely at awe by the innovation that MotoGP is showing in regards to safety and technology. And what I think is really interesting, innovation-wise, while I've just brought the subject up, is the radios that they're trialling. So it's said that Alicia Spargo and some of the test riders have tried little in-ear radios for when they're going out there on the track. On one hand, excellent idea because it can help, say someone goes down and their bike spills oil everywhere. Communicating that to a rider would be invaluable. The downside is these guys go fast. They're going quick. If you get distracted at that speed and you're in a pack, can you imagine the reaction, the jerk that you'd sort of have, the risk of that, or the risk of anything getting intercepted? Radio waves, I don't really understand how they all work, but if something, static noises or something like that came through, a really loud noise, it could easily throw the rider off balance, off, their focus, and we could easily see a horrible incident, especially, first turn sort of incidents, I suppose, would be what I was thinking of. Back to MotoGP riders' salaries. Thank you for bearing with me this week. My mind is jumping place to place. I generally don't medicate on the weekends, so my ADHD is just like, hello, this weekend. So, brains bounce. It's quite fun being up in my brain sometimes. So up next, we have Alex Rins, Enea Bastianini, Alicia Spargo, all reported to be around that 2.5 million to 3 million. Pushing up a bit more, Jack Miller and Joan Mir. Obviously, I highly doubt Joan Mir would have got any performance bonuses last year. I think he only scored a few points at the end of it, which was heartbreaking. I really hope that he does click with the new Honda. I don't know if we're even calling it the same thing this year, because it looks like a totally different bike. We know Joan Mir is incredibly talented, and yeah, I hope he does a lot better this year. I hope he gets paid well, and I hope he gets broken a whole lot less. Johann Zarco reportedly was paid $4 million along with Maverick Vinales for 2023, and I am going to link my source in the description below so you guys can have a quick browse, see if you think it's a reliable source. I had to do quite a bit of digging to find this actually. It's Bike Sport News, and I had to do some cross-referencing, and this one does seem like the most reliable one, even though it says Marc Marquez $16 million salary, and I've been going with the common number that's thrown out, which is the 19 million. But yeah, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm already at the top spot, but we've also got Fabio Quartararo and Pecco Bagnaia. So these two are supposedly just behind Marc Marquez. In terms of the table, not in terms of that actual figure. Because while it said that Marc Marquez is up there and extremely earning a lot more, Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Quartararo are reportedly on $5 million salaries. Which is still, to me, not a lot of money at all. But it is obviously a huge amount of money. I hate to think how much my house is worth. It's probably worth a tenth of that, probably around 500,000. That's what the council wants me to believe, so I can pay them their rates each week. But $5 million for two people who are world champions seems a bit rough. And I know Joan Mir is as well, but he isn't a more recent world champion. Yes, Quartararo is only a year after, but unfortunately for Joan Mir, he hasn't been as strong in the minds of everyone. And Suzuki leaving did sort of stuff things up for him quite a bit, so hopefully, like I said just before, we will see him back to a really strong performance in 2024. So those are the base salaries. When you come to things like partnerships and sponsorships on an individual basis, they're going to vary wildly from person to person to team. You can buy experiences with certain teams where you meet the riders. You can basically hire the experience outwards and have them attend events and conferences, and they're going to be getting paid for a lot of these attendances. It's just part of the sport, and I definitely believe they deserve every single penny of what they earn, and then some. Clearly, I think they should earn more. The other money side of things are the sponsorships for MotoGP itself. So you've got the team sponsorships, which are said to be about $150,000 from memory to about $5 million a year, depending how big you want your Red Bull to look, basically. Which would be really interesting to see if Honda do mix up their bike livery, because now Red Bull's gone, there's potential there. I personally hope they do, because I covered this in my livery podcast, which you can go and listen to. I'll link it. The other type of partnerships are technology partnerships. So this involves a particular company, say GoPro. They partner with a team. The team would then use that GoPro, and all their videos would have like a little link for people to buy them and things like that. There'd probably be giveaways. These are estimated to be in the range of $50,000 to $250,000 value-wise. Obviously, again, as I said at the start, all allegedly, is because no one's going to be showing the contracts unless, by all means, feel free to DM us. I would love to look at them. I'm great at analysing data and analysing policies and picking holes in things, like Dorna's copyright takedown requests, which refer to the 2029 and 2020 season, and they're using these to issue DMCAs for the 2023 season. Slight flaw there. Not actually legal, Dorna. But who am I to complain? I complain enough about it in all of the, replies that I send them to get my to get my videos reinstated. MotoGP official partners are another sponsorship opportunity. I call it a sponsorship opportunity. This is when you're coming to partnerships and things like that, when things get a little bit more complicated. These are estimated to be in the value of 2 to 5 million, and then race sponsorship is a lot cheaper than that. They're said to be about 100 to 300,000 per race. Maybe I'll sell my house and sponsor a race. I could just live on the racetrack for the weekend and then be homeless, because that seems like such a good idea. But anyway, those are the sponsorships. There's just so many moving financial parts to MotoGP and motor racing in all its forms. For example, I'd still love to get my hands on a Leopard energy drink, so if anyone knows where I can pick one of those up, I would actually film myself and upload it, just in case I got poisoned by drinking that energy drink, because, you could get the reference if you get the reference. But coming back to those bonuses that riders get for performing well, I do have to wonder if teams would have honoured the fact that sprint races got brought in 2023 without consultation. No one had time to renegotiate contracts and things like that. So say a rider gets $100,000 per podium, it's probably going to be stated somewhere like Grand Prix podium or Grand Prix win. So it's going to be interesting to know if they would have got those bonuses for the sprints. If those bonuses would have only been 50%, just like the races were 50%, would it be 50% less, only $50,000 for each podium or win? That's one of the things that I think frustrated me about the sprints coming in. There was just not enough time for riders and teams, the people taking the risk and the people doing the work. Not enough time for them to be ready. Not enough time for them to develop a plan. Everyone just sort of got thrown in the deep end. And we saw the effects at Portugal, which I really, really hope have changed their gravel for 2024. one of the things that interests me about sponsorship and the financial additions, given everything that has happened with Crypto Data RNF, who are no longer on the grid, they basically just got booted out, mainly due to alleged financial irregularities. This is actually quite a risky move for people to do, to go on, put all this money towards sponsoring a team, when Maverick Vinales' chain could break on the first lap. The 2 Barbie-inspired RNF bikes had to retire due to a mechanical issue. So, these things they're going to be paying so much money for, but they may only get 10 seconds of airtime, if that. I did some digging to find pictures of the Barbie livery, because the Barbie-inspired livery, because I loved the look of it, and I think we should have more pink bikes on the track. But it's not plastered everywhere. I had to actually hunt it out. Thankfully, RNF had a Flickr page. I don't know if it's still up, actually. If it is, I will link it in the description. But without having to hunt for that, I wouldn't have been able to find out any of those sponsors or who had done the special livery. So you've got to wonder about investment versus return, whether it's worth it, whether it's not. But all of these things get taken into consideration when people put their money up front for this. And some teams have a lot more money than others. Repsol Honda's thrown the book at this now, because they're basically giving it a blank check, because the damage to their reputation, with that Honda being the way it was, is going to be damaging how many bikes they're selling. Very similar with Yamaha. These are very wealthy companies that can be spending and investing a lot more. And then you look at how much money Ducati's investing at the moment, and the fact that Ducati has 8 bikes on the grid. They have really, really put the work in to get that bike where it is. And I just gotta give absolute major credit to Ducati. While I do want only 6 Ducatis on the grid, I really hope VR46. While I do only want 6 Ducatis on the grid, I do really want VR46 to go over to Yamaha, just to make it a little bit more fair. I think that Ducati have really put the work in, and we've got to acknowledge how far they've come since they entered MotoGP and how far behind they were. That is it for me this week. As always, I appreciate you all for listening and being here. It really makes my day when I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got new subscribers and things like that. You guys have a lovely week, and I will be here rambling, as always, next Monday. See ya!